I always was curious. So Straight Outta Compton and Easy Does It came out in the same year.
Kind of, a few months apart.
Right. So very close to each other.
Yeah.
When you guys were working on, like, was all of that shit getting worked on at the same time? And was there like whiteboards in the studio where like that's going on Easy Shit, this is going on Straight Outta Compton? Like or were they separate sessions? Like,
well, what happened? We started to, Easy was blowing up, so it was all about okay. We had multiple records on him. Then we had some N.W.A. records that he was on. And the whole thing was like, let's put all our energy into the Easy Does It album. I was still, through the first half of the album, I was still in Arizona, so I would only be able to work on it on the weekends.
You were going to school out there, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't DeVry, but it was like DeVry.
Nah, it was damn near like DeVry.
Yeah.
It was called Phoenix Institute of Technology.
I just remember when I was a kid, I always thought you went to DeVry. I was like, man, Ice Cube went to DeVry because it was right by my crib.
It was more low budget than DeVry and shit. Yeah, it was definitely. But so just getting it together, making sure it was dope, and then like once we had it and it was done, then we just started to focus on the N.W.A. record.
That shit's
on the
crazy.
album because we knew we had some dope singles out by then. We had Dope Man out, we had Gangsta out.
Gangsta was my shit.
So it was like let's get ready to do a whole album on the group.
It's just so crazy to think that all of that was being worked on around the same.
Yeah.
Like, what a special time that you guys didn't even understand was like gonna change the trajectory of like everything.
Not at all. We thought we were gonna be straight underground locals.
Like we're gonna crack off in L.A.
It's just that's we thought that's the only place we about to jump off visit. Right in L.A. where they understand what we're talking about, because we didn't know the rest of the world was
paying attention
dealing with this kind of stuff.
Shit's crazy. When did you guys realize that you made Raider hats a thing? Like
when we would go out of town to other cities.
Like you'd be in Wyoming and there'd be Raider hats or some crazy shit. Yeah.
We would hit the Foot Locker and they would be like, man, all the Raider stuff is gone.
Yeah. Like, why do you even have it in stock? We're in Chicago or something.
Yeah. Because of us. Right. It was like they would be like, all of it's gone. So get to the show and everybody out there in Raider hats. And we in Denver. We in, these different places that had their own teams, but it was all Raider gear out there.
I always wanted to ask you, America's Most Wanted was I remember it got 5 mics in the source because when I was born in '87, so I was 1 year old when Straight Outta Compton came out. But I like went back and would study all the 5 mic albums,
Yeah.
But to think about like kind of where you were in your career, coming out of the group, feuding with the group, having this pressure of like having to deliver your first thing outside of the group, but then also being like brave enough to be like, I'm gonna go tap in with like New York and the Bomb Squad and PE and these guys. Yeah. What was the pressure like for you, and how nervous were you to working on that project? Because you have to kind of understand the narrative that's happening. Like, I got to make sure whatever I do is better than whatever they're doing. You know what I'm saying?
I didn't really look at it like that. When I left the group, I left with nothing. So I was like, damn, now I got to go find a deal. Like,
right.
I don't even have a label. And so I went and talked to Brian Turner at Priority.
Shout out to Priority, man.
Yeah, shout out to Priority. Shout out to Brian Turner. Mark Cerami, who don't get a lot of...
Dave Weiner was over there?
A lot of, a lot of mention. So he's like, there's nothing you can do to keep the group together. I'm like, nah, it's over. He said, well, we still want you. So we're going to give you a solo budget and deal for a solo album. So that was like, man, the best news I had heard since I left the group.
Because now you got some money to put in the bank.
Now I got a deal. Now I can do my own record.
Right.
Where I can be the head producer on it, and what I want go.
And wherever, like, whatever ideas you want to get across, you don't have to clear with.
I don't have to clear with Dre and Easy, and
It's unapologetically you.
You know, argue with Ren a little bit. Y'all are gonna be talking shit, so I could just do what I want. And now I got it's me and it's Sir Jinx, who was soaking up a lot of game from the time I we start hanging with the Wrecking Crew, and then the Wrecking Crew kind of dismantled, and then we put N.W.A. together, and he's real competitive with his cousin Dre,
right?
Real competitive. So I knew he was ready to produce and ready to show what he got.
Yeah, like this guy, his cousin is the biggest, or at least
Yeah.
And he delivered.
And so I said, but he wasn't ready to do a whole project.
Right.
He was ready to contribute, and he had some tracks that he actually produced on the America's Most Wanted. Everybody give credit to the Bomb Squad.
Right.
But Jinx did Once Upon a Time the Projects, a song called The Bomb. It's a Man's World. So he, we knew, we wanted to have other producers for other tracks. We didn't know we were gonna have one other team working on the whole album. We thought, let's get tracks from here,
right
there. And I was talking to Chuck D throughout the breakup because we had met on the road. We met in Las Vegas at the Thomas and Mack Center on some shows we had did together. Easy and N.W.A. with Public Enemy. And then we became real cool, exchanged numbers. So when I was going through the breakup, I would call him, really for some big brother advice, on what I should do. He was trying to keep us together. He was like, man, this group is too important.
For sure.
You gotta try to keep it together, Cube. But also at the time, I wanted Dre to produce my solo record, but Easy and Jerry vetoed that.
What? Yeah, that wasn't going to get allowed. Yeah.
Yeah, they vetoed that, even though Dre wanted to do it, because me and Dre was actually still on cool terms.
Even though publicly there was the feud, but it wasn't.
It wasn't a feud yet. It wasn't a feud yet.
No,
it was just a breakup.
Yeah, No Vaseline hadn't happened.
Well, they dissed me before No Vaseline on 100 Miles and Running.
But No Vaseline was like the greatest diss record.
Yeah,
of all time.
that was a comeback.
that was one of the greatest songs.
After the Niggas for Life album, where they dissed me more and said they was gonna do shit to me with broomsticks and all this kind of shit. So, long story short, I'm looking for Sam Sever. I'm in New York looking for Sam Sever because he did the Third Base album and they beats was banging.
Shout out to Third Base, yeah.
Yeah, and he stood me up, but I saw Chuck in New York at Def Jam, and then we connected. And he was doing a record that night with Big Daddy Kane called Burn Hollywood Burn.
Oh, yeah.
And he was like, do you want to be on this record?
I was on Fear of a Black Planet, right?
Yeah. It would let the world know you solo. I was like, hell yeah. Went down there and recording the record. That's when Hank Shockley was there, Keith Shockley. And then I started talking about him trying to get my album produced. And they was like, we'll do that whole thing. Woo! It was like, I felt like I was in good hands. How could I miss with the best producers in hip-hop at the time? You know? And so I felt like I'm in good hands. If I can't get the best on the West, I'm going to get the best on the East.
That shit's crazy and as a classic. And it's crazy, too, because Kill It Will dropped the same year, right?
Yeah, later on that year.
Yeah. You were like, you got that deal and you were like, I'm fucking active.
Yeah, I mean, and we had records left over from the America's Most Wanted. And we're like, what are we going to do with these records? I don't want to wait a whole nother year.
Let's put something out.
And then Jinx had did this crazy remix to Endangered Species So having that and the other records that we had, then I thought of the Jacket for Beats idea.
One of my favorite album covers was when you with the gun.
Yeah.
So good.
And then even a song that never gets mentioned, Dead Homies, ended up becoming a big song for me at the time too, off that Killer Will record.
Jackin' for Beats, you were like the first, because you got to think about like mixtape culture and kind of T.I. has a Jackin' for Beats freestyle that was legendary. Like, if did you like were you purposely only grabbing shit you knew you could clear?
No, I was grabbing everything I liked that year.
So like let's
some of the
figure it out.
dopest beats,
Right,
came out that year.
but back then you couldn't just go on YouTube and type in something instrumental. And I'm not sure even back then.
No, we had records. We was in record pools. We was
yeah.
getting all the records. So we had, it was instrumentals on each record.
Would you who if you could pick like 3 beats right now, if you did a 2024 Jackin' for Beats, current beats, is there anything that comes to mind that you would hop on?
Oh man, I Like Us.
I mean that's
one of the beats. Man, I love that 21 Savage.
Red Rum.
Want It All. Leave a Breadcrumb. Yeah.
That Red Rum. Yeah, that shit's
Red
hard.
Rum is hard. And man, let me think about what other beats that got me going crazy this year. Them two are the two that come to mind.